I had just moved into a quaint apartment complex in the heart of the city. Excited about my new start, the first few weeks were uneventful, filled with unpacking and settling into my cozy space. But soon, I started noticing strange noises coming from the apartment next door. Late at night, as I lay in bed trying to sleep, I would hear faint whispers and muffled sounds through the thin walls. At first, I brushed it off as typical apartment noises. Maybe my neighbor was just a night owl. But as the weeks went by, the noises became more unsettling. One evening, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to knock on my neighbor's door, hoping to introduce myself and maybe ease my growing unease. I knocked twice, then waited. No answer. Oddly, the sounds from inside had stopped as well. I shrugged it off, assuming they weren't home, and went back to my apartment. But the noises persisted. Sometimes it sounded like someone pacing back and forth. Other times, I could swear I heard quiet sobbing. One stormy night, unable to sleep, I decided to investigate further. I knocked on the door again, this time more insistently. Still, no response. As I turned to leave, a flash of lightning briefly illuminated the hallway. In the split second of brightness, I saw it a shadowy figure standing behind the frosted glass of the neighbor's window, staring at me with wide, unblinking eyes. I froze, heart pounding in my chest, before the figure vanished into the darkness. Terrified, I retreated to my apartment and called the building manager the next morning. I described the strange occurrences and the figure I saw. To my shock, the manager informed me that the apartment next door had been vacant for months due to ongoing renovations. There was no way anyone could have been living there. Yet the noises continued: whispers, footsteps, and the occasional eerie laughter echoing through the walls. I never did find out who or what was causing those sounds, but the memory of that shadowy figure still haunts me to this day. Living on the 14th floor of a high-rise apartment building, I never imagined an elevator ride could be so terrifying until one fateful night. It started like any other evening. I had just finished a long day at work and entered the elevator, tired and ready to relax at home. I pressed the button for my floor and waited as the doors closed. Just as the elevator started moving, there was a brief flicker of the lights, and then everything stopped abruptly. The elevator jolted to a halt between floors, leaving me stranded in eerie silence. I pressed the emergency button repeatedly, hoping for a response, but there was only static. Panic began to set in as I realized I was trapped. I tried to remain calm, waiting for help to arrive. But then things took a chilling turn. A cold breeze swept through the elevator, chilling me to the bone. In the dim emergency lights, I heard a faint whisper, a voice pleading for help, coming from somewhere in the darkness of the elevator shaft. My heart raced as I strained to see anything beyond the metal walls. The voice grew more urgent, echoing off the walls, seemingly coming from all directions at once. It spoke in disjointed sentences, as if trapped in a loop of distress. I could make out phrases like, "Help me," and "Can't escape." Minutes felt like hours until suddenly, the elevator lurched back to life. The doors slid open on my floor, and I stumbled out, shaken to the core. I turned back to look at the elevator, expecting to see someone else there. But it was empty and silent, as if nothing had happened. Since that night, I avoid riding that elevator alone, haunted by the memory of that eerie encounter in the depths of the building. I often wonder if it was a trapped soul seeking release or something more sinister, lurking in the shadows. Living with roommates is usually a mixed bag of experiences. But what happened with mine still sends shivers down my spine. It started innocuously enough, a new roommate moving in to share the apartment. She seemed friendly, albeit a bit reserved, and we quickly settled into a routine. But soon I began noticing subtle changes, little things out of place, items missing, and an odd feeling of being watched when alone in the apartment. At first, I chalked it up to forgetfulness or stress. But as weeks turned into months, the incidents escalated. One evening, returning home after a long day, I found my roommate's door wide open, lights off, and no sign of her anywhere. Puzzled, I called out her name, but there was no response, assuming she had gone out and forgotten to close her door. I closed it and went about my evening. Days passed without seeing or hearing from her. Her belongings remained untouched. Phone calls went unanswered, and her absence became unsettlingly conspicuous. I started noticing strange occurrences, an unfamiliar laughter echoing through the empty apartment, shadows flickering in peripheral vision, and an unshakable feeling of being watched when alone. Desperate for answers, I contacted our landlord, hoping they might know something. To my shock, they claimed no one had lived in that room for months. Confused and terrified, I dug through old records and discovered the truth. My roommate had passed away in a tragic accident years before I moved in. Yet, her presence lingered, a ghostly reminder of the roommate who never left. To this day, I wonder if it was her spirit still roaming the apartment, or something darker masquerading as her. The experience taught me that sometimes the scariest things can happen closer to home than we dare to imagine.